Welcome to Beyond the Noise. Here's Olivet Nazarene University's chaplain, Mark Holcomb.
I drive a pink car. Now, that's a story for another time, but I drive a pink car. Some days that makes for an interesting commute to the office. The other day while I was driving in, a young man driving alongside me in a white SUV, and I hope you're not a student here at Olivet, laughed hysterically as he passed me. Right after that, a woman driving a red 4x4 pickup pulled up beside me, winked at me while vaping. As she pulled away, I laughed hysterically. I'm not certain what was behind the gut laugh or wink, but I'm fairly certain it was because I was driving a pink car. You ought to come and ride along with me sometime, just around town, to see the interesting looks I get because of the color of my car. But this is what we do, isn't it? We form opinions of one another based on what we see or what we think we see. So am I less of a man because I drive a pink car? Or more of a man because I do? Judgments are one of the occupational hazards of being human. We can't help but do it. It's not always bad. Sometimes it's funny. But it does go deeper than the color of your car or the color of your skin. Not too long ago, we did this with earrings in our culture. I remember serving as a youth pastor in a church where the pastor articulated his opinion of men and their spiritual maturity based on whether they had their ears pierced. Well, I happened to be sitting in a pew that morning looking at 3 of my high school students with their earrings sparkling in the light. I realized their ability to know and serve God had been clarified for them based on the jewelry that they adorned. This has been going on, though, as long as humans and sin have cohabitated the earth. From the time the first sin was committed, humans have attempted to cover up and mask our differences. It's one of the curses, honestly, this comparison game we play. We ignore the truth about ourselves, calling one another out when differences are recognized. We've become jealous, even angry when someone receives credit for a job well done, while we and our work seemingly go unnoticed. It's the reason originally clothing was necessary, to begin to mask our differences. And it's also the reason the first recorded murder occurred, and the church has not been exempt. It's why Jesus tells us in Luke not to judge or condemn, but to forgive, because Jesus saw people who were judging, condemning, and not forgiving, and he didn't like it. He saw people who were basing their opinions of one another on what they saw. They were using things like nationality and gender and land ownership and wealth and race to determine for them who carried the most value. Hey, have I told you I drive a pink car? It's why the rich were hoarding the communion wine in Corinth and why Peter wouldn't eat at a table with Gentiles in Galatia. It's why James uses the word favoritism, as some were given choice seats in their gatherings because of their wealth or status. And it's also why Paul says that none of the things mentioned above matter in the kingdom. Too often we continue this behavior while knowing we're called to live another way, but I think we need to remind ourselves that what we see isn't all there is. Sometimes the places we draw the lines and the ways we draw them are not consistent with who Jesus was and is. Our identity and security aren't based on what we create, but in the one who created and loves us, who longs to redeem our stories so our identity can be found in him, and only then do we discover who we were created to be so we can do what he created us to do. So yeah, I drive a pink car. You may have your ear or tongue pierced, have tattoos, wear jeans with holes, have long hair or short hair, wear a hat, carry a man purse, and might even wear flip-flops as often as possible. My hope is that as we continue to seek to live more fully into the way of Jesus every day, that we're willing to do the hard work, that we're willing to dig down, looking beyond all the stuff, the noise, so we can really begin to know each other, so we can listen for the truth. And I hope that our judgment of one another, and if you don't think Jesus talked about judgment or judged people for their behavior, read Matthew 23. But I hope that our judgment of one another is free of condemnation and laced with grace. I hope that we're forgiving one another as we have been forgiven, creating safe spaces where grace is extended to others in the same way that we have received it. Ultimately, I have a dream, to borrow from Martin Luther King Jr. and adapt it maybe to what we're talking about today, that we stop judging people by the color of their car, but by the character of the person riding within.
This has been Beyond the Noise with Chaplain Mark Holcomb. Watch Olivet Chapel services live or on demand at olivet.edu. Beyond the Noise is a production of shine.fm.